We all go through difficult moments in our lives, whether it's getting laid off at work, failure, or the loss of a loved one, or maybe something less intense like a difficult case at work or a low test score. A lot of times the way we approach these situations can make them easier to bear or harder to deal with. Mental toughness is the ability to stay strong despite hard times, to keep your focus and determination. It's to be able to see challenge and difficulty as an opportunity instead of a threat, and to have the confidence and the positivity to take what comes towards you. So how do we build mental toughness? According to Turner, 2017, there are 4 important traits known as the 4 C's: control, commitment, challenge, and confidence. Some of us may have some of these qualities, but to have all 4 is the ideal situation. So you can think of them as like a measure that you can be high or low on. Number 1, control. This has to do with how much control you have over your emotions. I just defined the word by using the word in a sentence, but how you're able to manage your emotion and your sense of life purpose. You can think of it as your self-esteem. The higher your level of control, the more comfortable you are in your own skin, and the more you understand who you are. For your emotions, that means you're less likely to reveal your emotional state to others and be less bothered by the emotions of other people. To have a low level of control means that you might feel like things happen to you that you have no control over. You might feel like you can't influence how events turn out. Number 2, commitment. This has to do with your personal focus and reliability. To be high on the commitment measure is to effectively set goals and consistently achieve them without getting distracted. A high commitment level means that you're good at setting habits and routines that create success. On the other hand, a low commitment level might mean that you find it hard to prioritize your goals or take up routines and habits that lead to success. You might also get distracted by other people and their priorities. Control and commitment have to do with resilience, which is actually a concept taken from engineering. It has to do with the ability of an object to spring back to shape. So mental resilience has to do with the strength and the flexibility to bounce back. So the way to differentiate resilience and mental toughness is to think about it this way. So resilience helps us survive, and mental toughness helps us thrive. Back to mental toughness. Number 3, challenge. It's how driven and adaptable we are. To be high on this trait means that you're driven to achieve your best and that you see challenges and adversities as opportunities rather than threats. You're more likely to be flexible and agile. To be low on the challenge scale means that you see change as a threat. And if you're low on this measure, you might avoid new and challenging situations out of fear of failure. And number 4 is confidence. It's how much you believe in your ability to be productive and capable. It's your self-belief and the belief that you can influence others. To be high on the confidence scale means that you think that you'll be successful when you do tasks, that you'll be able to manage setbacks while maintaining your routine and your resolve, and in some cases your resolve might even get stronger. Together, challenge and confidence make up the mental toughness definition. And remember, we said that the first 2 C's were control and commitment, which had to do with the resilience definition, which helps you to survive and maintain things. But now these 2 C's have to do with growing and prospering. Challenge and confidence have to do with the ability to identify and to seize an opportunity. It's to see the opportunities in situations and explore them rather than being afraid of them and running away. I mean, logically speaking, if you're confident in your abilities and self, you engage easily with others, then you're more likely to turn challenges into successful outcomes. What about for the long run, when we start to run out of gas, when we run out of that stamina? And what exactly is stamina? Stamina is basically the ability to sustain prolonged mental and physical effort. The first thing that might come to your mind when you think of the word stamina is probably a marathon runner or an athlete. While that's physical stamina, there's also a mental aspect to it that anyone can have. And here are some tips to build that stamina. Number 1, learn how to deal with negative thoughts. According to sports psychologists, we should keep track of our self-talk, which is that little voice in our head. Murray, a sports psychologist, suggests that we look at our self-talk the same way we look at equipment. In the same way that you bring your cleats or your shoes or your equipment to the field, you want to bring self-talk that's going to be nurturing and that's going to encourage you rather than negative self-talk. For example, don't catastrophize and increase the negativity of what happened. So let's say you missed a goal. One of the worst things that you can do is assume that you've lost the game and that the game is over when there's actually still time left. So that inner chant or mantra that you have in your head isn't useful if it keeps replaying negative situations. And of course, if you train yourself to appreciate a challenge, that will help a lot more, because otherwise, every time you face a challenge, you'll start to break down and your negative self-talk will interfere with your performance. The second tip to increase your mental stamina is to use visualization to manage stress and anxiety. You can imagine a similar situation that you succeeded in. So if it's a test, then think of another exam that you did really well on that you were also really nervous about. It could be a test from a very similar field or the same subject. And you can apply that to work or to sports or to any other situation, but try to remember the feeling of success and the feelings you had before you achieved that success. So like, for example, I remember in the statistics class, I was running a B plus and I was aiming for something higher. I got a B plus on the first 2 exams, and the final, I knew I had to do really well on it, but I missed the last class before the final, and he actually covered new content. Obviously put me at a disadvantage. So while I was taking the final, there were a few questions I wasn't sure about, so I skipped one. I was like, okay, I'll just get back to it. Then there was another one. I skipped that one, and of course I was getting more nervous. It's like, okay, this is getting bad. And then there was another one that I didn't know how to do. It was like a part A, B, C, D. So if you don't get part A right, then you couldn't get the rest right. And they were separate questions. So I was in a really bad situation, and I kept thinking to myself, okay, that's it, man. I'm just gonna fail. I'm just never gonna get into grad school. I should just give up on my hopes and dreams now, and I should just call it a day. Like, what am I even doing? I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's over. But then I told myself, okay, I have to calm down. The test is not over yet. It's not over yet. I've got to relax. There's got to be a way for me to be able to figure this out. So for one of the questions, it was something that he covered in the class before the final. So I figured, well, if I ask him the right question, maybe he could help me out. So I raised my hand and I asked him, and I explained that I wasn't there because I had a good excuse for not being there, that the class before the final. And so he wrote a letter on my paper, like a W. That was it. He said, that's all I'm doing. And I don't even remember what the actual hint was, but it was basically a concept that we had already learned and we were just applying it in a different way. So then I was able to figure that out, what the letter he wrote meant, and apply it. And I was able to answer the question, and then A, B, C, and D. And then eventually I finished the test and I went back to the questions that I wasn't sure about. Instead of panicking, I was like, okay, let's just take this one by one. And then I answered those questions, and sure enough, I ended up getting an A plus in the class, which is pretty wild because I was running a B plus. I don't know if the final was worth like 40% of our grade or something, but I was panicking and I thought I wouldn't get into grad school. I thought I would do really poorly on the exam. To be able to calm myself down and to tone down that negative self-talk that I wouldn't succeed, that I wouldn't achieve my goals, that I was going to fail, that helped me succeed. Number 3, plan for setbacks. You can't plan for everything, nor am I saying that you should become an emotionless robot who always recovers quickly whenever experiences sadness, or just trying to become better. For example, let's say you don't work out before your meeting at 6:30 and you really wanted to work out. Move a few things around. Then maybe you can do it afterwards, or maybe you can leave something else that you had planned for some other time, but just plan it in advance. To have alternatives in place gives you options. And another tip, get more sleep. This is a total no-brainer, but it's like one of the most overlooked things ever. Preferably, you'd want to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and even more if you're performing like really stressful activities throughout the day. And 7 to 9 hours at night, because sleeping at night, it just hits different. Your body goes through specific changes during night. It might be better for us to sleep during the night. And studies show that it actually has to do with taking care of our weight gain as well, our sleep schedule. So like if we sleep for 5 hours every night, we're more likely to gain fat and gain weight. So if we aren't taking care of our body and our mind by giving it enough rest, then how could you possibly expect to build mental stamina or resilience? And finally, as a general tip, we should avoid motivating ourselves with negative self-talk. We should change how we motivate ourselves. And a lot of us learn that we need to be very hard on ourselves if we want to succeed. Because of this, we develop a pattern and a habit of negative self-talk where we beat ourselves up and use it to motivate us. As it turns out, being harsh and judgmental actually decreases performance. A prolonged habit of negative self-talk leads to low self-esteem, sensitivity to criticism. If we want to become stronger, we can't be our own enemies. So I hope these tips were useful, and that's all for today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe.